PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Holy Snokes here on the PLD Projects Network. I am your host, PLD. That guy is Matty Gunner. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
I am doing spectacularly. Every time we talk Star Wars, I'm feeling good. So I'm always happy to talk Star Wars.
Likewise.
Did you have a good week from last week?
Yeah, it's been good. Just working away, As my co-host on the ONU MMA show, Jamie Jones, likes to say, same shit, different toilet.
I like that saying. I might have to take that on as my own. I'll try to give credit where credit's due, though.
Shout out Jamie. He listens to the show, and I've never quoted him. So there you are, bud. That's your one that you're ever gonna get.
There you go. It's been kind of cool. We've had a couple weeks now where we haven't had anything new to review. Obviously, we started Holy Snokes back when Bad Batch started, and of course, Mandalorian season 3 came after that. And all of our shows are basically based on reviewing something and then talking about news. So now that the reviewing things are temporarily done, until we get to Ahsoka, and we're going to review the gallery special of the Mandalorian season 3. But we've been able to kind of dive into some stuff we haven't been able to get going on as much. A little bit of we had a little fun last week with Kevin Kiner music. Of course, this week we're getting to the GOAT, the master, the special sauce of Star Wars, as George Lucas calls him, the best of John Williams. And I got to tell you, this week was a disaster for me as far as that goes. Trying to pick the top my favorite 5 tracks. I mean, only 5 tracks from John Williams in Star Wars. I mean, I could pick 5 tracks from each movie. That would be.
Thankfully, we're only doing Star Wars and not indie.
That's what I'm saying. Indie, Superman, Jaws, or Harry Potter, Jurassic Park. I mean, that's the guy's a goat for the reason. He's the legend. He is the maestro, as it were. This is actually inspired by, I think I mentioned on the show a couple weeks back, partially because I went to a special Star Wars show locally in Albany with John Williams. I guess a John Williams curated special. He kind of like created these like medleys for the symphony and everything else. And it was really fun.
Conducting live, or
no, it wasn't John. It wasn't John conducting live before. I wish it was. But that's the other thing. I don't think I mentioned on the show is in August. Kim and myself are going to meet Mike Deacon. I think John Hoey, Ed Harrell, a bunch of people, John Mariano, are going down to see Metallica in August down in New York. Nice. For both shows. They have a Friday show and a Sunday show. The two different, and I guess they do different set lists each time and everything else. It's been a while since I've seen Metallica live, so I'm excited. Also, I think Slayer and Mammoth Van Halen, which I'm really looking forward to. Eddie Van Halen's son's band is playing I think it's Sunday show, which I'm looking forward to.
Shout out to the boys from over here, the boys in Architects, who are also on that tour. I've been watching them since they were playing the West End Center here in Aldershot to 150 people. Now they're over in the States playing with Metallica. So shout out to those boys.
Nice.
It's awesome to see. Yeah, man, that'll be a great show. I think I've seen Metallica 12 times.
Wow, good for you, man. The last time
they're my favorite band of all time. I mean, shout out to good boy. I think other than myself, John Hoey is the guy to go to a Metallica show with. He is like we had a massive, really long discussion in the hotel bar at Star Wars Celebration in London about Metallica. And,
very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to do that with him in August. But the reason why I specifically brought it up here is because we decided that Kim found out, and I jumped to the chance. On that Saturday, John Williams is conducting in Tanglewoods, which isn't that far away. So we have now we're doing Metallica on Friday and Sunday, and the Maestro in the middle on Saturday.
Are you all going to that one as well? Or
I don't believe all of us are. I think John Hoy's only for the one day. I don't think he's not at both concerts. Myself, Kim, Mike Eakin definitively. I think
that's right. You said Mike's going as well. Yeah, shout out to Mike. It was another massive Metallica fan. When I saw them for their show in San Francisco for their 40th year anniversary, I was texting Mike throughout the whole thing because they were streaming it on Amazon.
Nice.
And me and Mike were like texting it throughout the whole way through, just be like, dude, they're playing this. Right. Oh my god. So yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, and of course, the Deacons had a Star Wars themed wedding, so
absolutely did. It all comes back. AJ Lancaster as well from What the Show, our friends at What the Show. So it should be a very, very fun time.
Can we get Metallica in a Star Wars project? That would be sweet.
I love that. I mean, we have heard. It's always funny. There was this like heavy metal version of the Imperial March that like people credited to Metallica back in the day. It wasn't really Metallica. It was kind of done in the vein of Metallica, which was nice. But yeah, having Metallica do it would be nice. I haven't seen Metallica live. I don't believe. I want to say. I think it might be Woodstock in 1999.
Oh, I've seen the videos of that.
Can I tell you how magical that was? I don't care what people say about Woodstock and 99.
Yeah, this is becoming a Metallica podcast. I'm all for it.
But like, I got to tell you, I went with my friend Jeremy, and we went to as many of the gigs as we can get to, as many of the things. We didn't like spend a lot of time in tents because we're here to see every band possible, and some were disappointing, and some were like whatever. Dave Matthews was whatever. Kid Rock was actually pretty fun, I guess. I don't his politics now, whatever. But back in the day, it was a kind of a fun thing. Limp Bizkit was kind of intense.
Hold up. You were there for that?
Oh, I was there for that. Oh, yeah. I was there for everything. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, sorry to everyone listening for Star Wars. We got a sidetrack because obviously, like that set is like infamous.
Yeah,
like the amount of insane shit.
I will say I was far back. Okay. I was never a huge Limp Bizkit fan. Like they weren't like my music. That wasn't what I was there for. So I was like, kind of like the stage is over here, and I was like way back here. I could see them from a distance and watch them. I could see them, and I could see the shit going on. But it was definitely insane, and they were inciting a little bit. There's times.
Yeah, there's a cool documentary on it. Yeah, and for everyone listening who doesn't know, like Limp Bizkit played Woodstock 90. Was it? Yeah, it was 99.
Yep.
And like riots kicked. It went beyond mosh pits. It was like riots kicked off. People got looted. You know, assaults were happening. And it got bad.
I gotta tell you, the Limp Bizkit portion though didn't really affect me as much. Like I kind of like watched the documentaries afterwards, but I never like while I was there. I'm sure in like up close it was intense, but I really didn't do much. It was really more the ending. Like Red Hot Chili Peppers closed the show. Flea came out naked with nothing but a bass, but that's when like the fires started and stuit was it got a little scarier during that time. Although I still, as a young guy, I was still like, whatever, I'm having a good time. I wasn't like doing anything bad. I was kind of having fun watching Red Hot Chili Peppers kick ass. They actually had a great concert. But one of my most memorable experiences bringing it back to Metallica was like how awesome it was. Like they started a late night show, and they're in this one part of the grounds. Where I think it was the aircraft ground. I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember walking up there, and they were playing. I actually don't remember what track it was that I saw. It was one of towards the beginning of the set, but like I walked up with a bunch of people there, and they were fucking awesome. And I looked up at the sky, and like the sky just like became darker and darker. There's big clouds, and lightning started like coming like across the sky. It was like Metallica was summoning the sky, like summoning.
I'm looking at the set list now, and holy shit!
Yeah,
they did their Misfits cover of "Die Die My Darling." Holy shit!
Yes, they did. It was
nothing.
It was phenomenal.
Turn the page wherever I may run. Yeah, dude, this is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I want to try because it was right towards the beginning. I want to say it was either during Master of Puppets or maybe For Whom the Bell Tolls. I think it might have been For Whom the Bell Tolls.
For Whom the Bell Tolls, yeah.
Because that's what it kind of felt.
Masters on the set.
It kind of felt like they definitely played. No, it was a short version of Masters. It was like it wasn't a real they didn't do the whole thing. It was kind of this like snippet version. They played For the Whom Bell Tolls, and I think that's what it was because that felt like a summoning type of song. It had the big kind of like. And like I was like, I wasn't even watching Metallica. I was kind of looking up, watching the sky get darker and the lightning coming. It literally was like one of those magical experiences. I'm like, this is a little scary. I'm not gonna lie, but it was good. Yeah, it was fun. The only negative thing for me was they didn't play Stone Cold Crazy. That's okay. All right, but this is up. We've done like 10 minutes on Metallica on a Star Wars podcast. We should do a different podcast at some point, which we do music-wise, which would be fun. But let's get back. So yeah, John Williams, Metallica, John Williams. That's where this came up, and because of that, now you decided we should do music of Star Wars, and I was like, absolutely, let's do it. Let's do Kevin Kiner 1 week, and we'll do John Williams next. And who knows? I don't think we have a plan to do anything further, but maybe down the road we could revisit this and maybe do the best of the rest, so to speak, a little bit of Ludwig.
Yeah, do like best of Ludwig. And
Giacchino, John Powell, all the people we've had doing stuff. And who knows what's going to happen to Star Wars music in the future, making some more composers.
Yeah. God. That just makes me wonder who they could get. That doesn't matter. We've already spent 10 minutes talking about Metallica, which I'm all for, like always. My favorite band of all time, but yeah.
Well,
choosing 5, I will admit, and people listening to this, when they hear my choices, you guys will need to understand I'm a musician. Like, I don't go by like what's cool or oh my god, you didn't pick this track. Oh my god, you didn't pick this track. No, I picked what I felt at the time.
Right.
So
absolutely.
There's gonna be stuff for, there's gonna be stuff in here that gets missed. Big stuff that is gonna get missed. So
the last thing I'll say about it before we get into our news portion of the show, because we want to start with the news. We got a lot of news to talk about today. It's kind of fun being big Star Wars fans. It's almost easier because Kiner was newer, even though he's been around for a while now too. Williams is the old classic standby, and it's like being a Queen fan and then listening to Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, some of the biggest hits from John Williams, not that they don't hit hard anymore, but we're almost like used to them. It's like not overplayed necessarily, but like a Queen fan doesn't often put Bohemian Rhapsody on because they've heard it a billion times.
Yeah.
And so they look sometimes for the deeper cuts for that reason. So it's interesting to see what we get into. I tried to consciously avoid that because those songs that usually are so classic for a reason. Like Bohemian Rhapsody in Queen is one of the greatest songs of all time, and you cannot talk about it. But
I mean, here we go. God, I feel this every time I say this. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure about this? I will go down and saying "The Show Must Go On" is the greatest song ever written, ever written.
I will not argue that. I do. I don't know if I completely agree. I have so many songs I love, but that's one of my favorites. That's in my top 5 of all time. Absolutely. I'm doing my rankings on my Queen podcast, Crown Jewels, but I'm doing it chronologically, so I'm only adding songs as I go over them. But by the end, I'm quite sure "Show Must Go On" will be my top 5. One of my favorites. Ooh, such a good track. Brian and Freddie, mostly written by Brian, but Freddie helped out a lot, especially with the lyrics, and they had a great combination of just energy and power. And Freddie taking that middle section. Holy shit! For a guy that's sick with AIDS, and he just takes that, shoots a couple of vodkas down, and takes that middle section, and that's one take. Okay, that's why you're Freddie Mercury. Okay. But let's get into the news now. Let's get into the news here. 15 minutes. And hopefully, we haven't lost our Star Wars listeners at this point. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you still like us. You hit that like and you hit that subscribe and all that stuff. We are trying to get to a place of 500 subscribers. It's a modest goal. We are working our way there, slowly but surely. We're up to somewhere in the mid 410, 411, 412, around there. Hopefully we can get up to 500 before we know it and move on further. It does help us out if you hit that like, you share it, you leave a comment, all that kind of stuff. But let's get into the news. The first bit of news we got this week, and I'll say up top, like I always do, I curate my news usually from Star Wars News.net. They do a great job of searching the internet for all Star Wars news pieces, and they present it in such a way that it's either, it's fact, it's fiction, it's somewhere in between, it's speculation, it's rumor. It's a great source of information, and it's the best way they'll collect everything for you pretty much. So I always go there first. First bit of news they wanted to talk about was Ming-Na Wen. Had an interview during a discussion of a different show. They asked her about where she would want to see the character go in Book of Boba Fett season 2. Now we know there's been no announcement on Book of Boba Fett season 2. It actually kind of feels, at least in the community, like that we're kind of getting pessimistic about that ever really happening. At least I think, like I was like, there was remarks by Robert Rodriguez a couple weeks ago, who we actually covered those remarks, where he said someone was asked about Boba Fett's future, and he said he knew about it but couldn't discuss it. I think I speculated at that point, maybe it might have agreed with me if I remember correctly, like that maybe we will have the story that was in Book of Boba Fett season 2 potentially just kind of maybe pushed into the Mandalorian or pushed into a different show kind of thing. So it might not get a specific Book of Boba Fett season 2, but stranger things have absolutely happened. So Ming-Na Wen would love to see a Book of Boba Fett season 2, and I don't blame her. She's actually definitely one of us. She's not like a celebrity who got into Star Wars. She's definitely a Star Wars fan, because every time everyone asks her about her character, she just goes off and like is very passionate about it, doesn't give any kind of stock answer. It's always, boom, this is what I want to say. And her quote on this was, I would like to see what they do with their, he's the Lord of Tatooine, and he's managing to have some control, but he was trying to do it one way, and I'm not sure how effective it was. He was trying to have a greater honor system, and I would love to see that he turns back to a bit more like what Boba Fett was, and also being able to maintain justice or accomplish what he needs to accomplish on Tatooine, and then ultimately just to have a lot of fun battle scenes.
Nice.
Now, it sounds to me like she actually would like, that's one of the criticisms of the Book of Boba Fett, and I know on this channel specifically, we like the Book of Boba Fett more than a lot of other folks did. Some people had their issues with it, and that's fine. But one of the criticisms was that they kind of wanted to see the Boba Fett who was not like held down to one planet, kind of wanted to see him doing his bounty hunting ways and things of that nature. And I get, honestly, if you think about it, it was probably, the idea was to give him a different story than Din, because we already had like a Mandalorian bounty hunter out there doing his thing, so it would have been too similar to have Boba Fett just doing his thing. But maybe now, after this has happened, maybe we can do a little more in that general direction somehow. I don't know. We'll have to see. I've seen Fennec Shand want to do that. She definitely is passionate about it. Would you want to see a Book of Boba Fett season 2, and what would you want to see from the character, Matty?
But I want to. Is that even a question? Would I want to see more Boba Fett? Did you just ask me if I want to see more Boba Fett?
I asked you if you want to see a Book of Boba Fett season 2. Obviously, yes. We want more Boba Fett.
I want a Book of Boba Fett season 2. I want a Book of Fennec Shand featuring Boba Fett. I don't care what it is. Just give me more Boba Fett.
Okay, that's fair.
Boba Fett. Fair. Boba Fett. Where is he going to be? We don't know. But
Matt would be there.
Tamora Morrison was in his underwear on the beach reading lines. He's got to be preparing for something.
That's true. We're going to find out what soon. I mean, we always have the rumor of him being Rex and Ahsoka potentially, which I would love to see as well. Yeah. But yeah, I too would like to see a Book of Boba Fett season 2, even if it's done a little differently, if that's the way they have to go. They want to try to tweak it a little bit. But I'd love to see more of Boba Fett, and I'd love to see more of Fennec Shand. And
speaking of Ming-Na Wen, real quick.
No.
Shout out to the Hollywood Walk of Fame finally pulling their finger out their ass and giving her a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. These things take too long. They take way too long. Carrie just getting hers. Ming-Na now just getting hers. These things, they take way too long, man.
Agreed. I'm very happy that that's happening as well. That's actually one of the other pieces of news I was going to discuss. That it's good to see. She was very excited about getting her Walk of Fame star, and it's about time, and she's very deserving for it. So I'm very happy for her. Another wonderful person. Even if it is potentially a little later than potentially it should be, but. So that's the bit we have about Ming-Na Wen. We do have some sadder news to get into, and we'll go back to we'll kind of make a happy sandwich. We'll have the sad bits of news first. We'll talk first about the saddest news we have, of course, is the passing of legendary character actor and action genre, phenomenal, wonderful, joyous person, Ray Stevenson, who passed suddenly this past week on Sunday. We don't know exactly. I don't think it's out there exactly what happened. It was just kind of how he contracted an illness, went to a hospital, and then was like dead a few days later. And I mean, really, that's none of our business. It's not important per se. What's important is He's left behind children and a wife, and he was so young at 58, just about to turn 59.
Yeah.
Of course, we know him from Punisher War Journal. We know him from Rome. We know him from the other guys. We know him from all sorts.
Let me tell you where I know Ray Stevenson from. City Central. My grandmother used to watch City Central when I was a little kid. It was The Office before The Office.
Okay.
Set in the Greater Manchester Police Department, and it was like the day-to-day lives of like all the detectives and police officers. He was in Holby City, which is another British soap opera. He had a brief appearance in The Bill, which is another it's like a Holby City is set around like paramedics and ambulance workers. The Bill was like a drama soap opera that's like set around the police.
Right.
He was obviously in the good King Arthur movie, not the Guy Ritchie one. And yeah, of course, as you mentioned, Punisher Warzone, which is a criminally underrated movie, but I love the Punisher, despite what that symbol has grown on to get used for. Ray Stevenson has been,
Thor. He was the Volstagg in the MCU, G.I. Joe Retaliation. He was in Triple R. I mean,
Gar Saxon, right? In Rebels.
That's what it's going to lead up to. We have him. Star Wars fans, of course, know him as the voice of Gar Saxon in Rebels, and in the Clone Wars as well. He came back for the Clone Wars final episodes, and of course, his last role, we got to see him in the trailer. I haven't seen it come out yet. He is, of course, playing Balin Skoll in the upcoming Ahsoka series, and damn, he looked sweet in that trailer. Like, I want to see more of him.
Good.
He looked like a dark side badass. I can't wait to see his performance. His co-stars have been nothing but glowing about it, about him in the show. And it was almost like bittersweet now looking back. We last really saw him publicly at Celebration, and he was joyous, like overjoyed being there, talking about how getting to wield the lightsaber was one of the best days of his life. He was very just, again, he was one of those people, like, it was kind of like Ming-Na Wen. He didn't seem like he was just like, I'm going through the motions, I'm here to say hi to the fan. He was genuinely excited about being a part of Star Wars. Obviously, he did the voice for Gar Saxon and Dave Filoni. I watched the interview where Dave Filoni, I kind of asked him, and Ray just initially thought that Gar Saxon was coming to live action somehow, potentially. That's what he assumed he was doing somehow. And Dave was like, oh, no, you're going to be this character, and how excited he got that he was going to be able to swing a lightsaber around. And speaking of Star Wars and Dave Filoni actually had a quote or a comment on it that said, we've lost a great talent and friend in Ray Stevenson. His kindness and generosity were felt by our entire team on Ahsoka. I always looked forward to working with Ray and appreciated his insight and daily wisdom. I'm glad that his memory will live on through his family, friends, and many characters he created. Thank you, Ray, for everything. So yeah, it's a sad day, and I hope Ahsoka is a brilliant tribute, a brilliant, wonderful way for him to end a sad ending potentially, but I mean, be happy for what we had, the time we did get to have with him, because again, I really do enjoy almost all of his works I've seen him in, so he's phenomenal.
I feel like he's one of these guys that, like, I've been watching ever since I was a little kid, and I want to say I feel like he was about to really hit his peak, because obviously he was in RRR,
right,
which was massive,
right.
Vikings, he was in that as well, another great show, and now he's going to be in Ahsoka. So I feel like it's sad because, like, not only like is he leaving family behind, is he leaving children behind? It's like seeing someone like that kind of like go with their prime, like just as they're about to hit their stride. It's just kind of like it's always it's similar to how I feel about Heath Ledger. It's just like, what could have been?
Right.
What could have been?
Absolutely. And he was just finally arriving, like in Star Wars, for example. And I know we are obviously looking at a Star Wars point of view, and it's not the end all be all. But obviously, like I mentioned at Celebration, he was so happy to be a part of it. Well, Gar Saxon was a significant enough role. This really felt like a coming out party for him. And like, I look ahead to what could have been like I don't even know what happened to Balin Skoll in this show, but like, is it potential he could have been the next thing, and he could have been wanting to see him return to Star Wars as Baylan Skoll somewhere along the way. Baylan Skoll series, a Baylan Skoll appearances earlier on, because that's the kind of thing that happens in Star Wars. Like he got to that point where maybe he was going to have that kind of a win, so to speak. And it's just kind of sad to see that it's cut down before, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but rest in power. We wish you well, and I wish your family well, Ray. Thank you for everything you've given us. So, yeah. All right, moving on to a little bit more, not nearly as sad news, but kind of like, downbeat. So, Star Wars Hotel Galactic Starcruiser is officially closing permanently. They said that the last voyage will be, I believe, September 28th. I want to say, I listened to Force Center. I love Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw and Jennifer Landa. That's some of my favorite Star Wars podcasts to listen to. I think Joseph said it best that, like, there's obviously a lot of talk around the town was obviously how expensive it was. It was a very, very expensive endeavor.
It's like $5,000 per person for 2 nights.
Like yeah, it was just very expensive. So obviously it was skewed towards a wealthier clientele. But at the same time, while there is that thought process and it's a fair statement, I feel like going around the internet, looking at the internet, people are kind of like happy it's closing and like, nah. Like you were wrong. See, this is what you do. Good. I'm glad it's closing. It was a greedy venture, etc. And Joseph looked at it a different way, and I kind of agreed with him. So I wanted to put that out here to our listeners as well. That I'm sure you can have that opinion. I mean, I share that opinion. I wasn't going to be able to get to Starcruiser. Probably, I probably wasn't going to. Prices went down tremendously, but there was a lot of people who did scrounge up enough fortunes or whatever or scrounge up enough vacation money to do it. And they always talked very glowingly about the event itself and how much it meant to them and how well done it was. So to me, I don't want to celebrate the ending of something which was so magical. Star Wars is such a magical thing for all of us. The idea of being able to go into a hotel cruiser, Starcruiser, and be completely immersed in a galaxy far, far away. I mean, that just sounds like a wondrous thing. We can't do that for many IPs or many of the worlds that we love to escape into. It's something that was like top of my list of something I would love to have done if I could. So I think we should keep that in mind, that the cast members who lost their jobs, the cast members who put out a tremendous performance, from what I've been told from the people who have been there, it's a sad thing to me. It's not something to celebrate. Sure. Hopefully maybe Disney could learn some lessons from what happened, and maybe this is the first step into something like this in the future that can be done in such a fashion that it's maybe more affordable for everybody down the line. But I always hate the negative takes we have. I feel like everybody's quick to judge, quick to celebrate downfalls nowadays. I don't like to be that person. I don't want to be that person. I try to stay positive, and I like the positive sound here. What are your thoughts on it?
How do I put this? I am notoriously Mr. Eat the Rich, right?
Right.
I'm very much, I don't come from a place of privilege to where I can afford such things. And some of the takes that I've seen from people, absolutely right, that it was a Iger project, a Chapek project, that, he was looking to cash in on fandom and exploit people that have more money than other people. And Iger came in and shut it down. I fully agree with that. I fully agree that it cost way too much for what it was deemed to be. Fully agree with that. But, and this is where I've got to push back on every single person that's saying this, and I'm going to do this as respectfully as I can. There are a lot of people that I talk to on a daily basis in the Thank the Maker Discord channel. Sarah and Stephen from the Princess and Scoundrel podcast, Justin, who's the LCO of the 501st, Dano Flores. I've never met someone more positive and more loving about Star Wars, even more than Ken and Joseph than Dano. Like, he loved Starcruiser. Sarah and Steven, they would organize trips to take people on Starcruiser. Like, that was like their big thing. Like, they would find like deals and like help people like arrange trips to go on Starcruiser, take them on the Starcruiser, like show them everything on there, and just like the thank the maker guys themselves. And seeing people who I talk to on a daily basis just absolutely distraught that this thing that they love is being taken away. Like,
Right.
just because we don't get to make those memories, we don't get to have those experiences, doesn't mean we should shit on it for the people who have.
Right.
There are people that have gone on this thing that have made lifelong friendships, lifelong memories of something they love, they cherish, something that they'll take with them forever. And now that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to shit on that. If that is your view and you're listening to this podcast, I don't want you listening to this.
Yeah.
If that is your output, if that is your outlook on things, you want to shit on something that some people love going away. I get it. Trust me, I get it. We are in a cost of living crisis around the entire world. Not everyone can afford $5,000 for a 2-night stay in a Star Wars, themed hotel that's miles away from the actual. But I get it. I agree with you, but I'm not going to shit on something that I have never experienced. B, people that I care about are currently are still going through the pain of losing this.
Right.
And C, like, what's the phrase from The Mandalorian? One does not speak if one does not know.
Absolutely.
If you or I went onto that Starcruiser tomorrow, we would probably come out of it saying, holy shit, that was the best thing I've ever done.
Absolutely.
I remember when we went to Galaxy's Edge the day after Spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Our good friend Zach and I got to pilot the Millennium Falcon when we did the Smugglers run. Right. Me and him got to ride the Millennium Falcon. And the moment where you put it into hyperspace, like, the lever was in the middle of us. We both looked at each other and we both grabbed the thing and pushed it so we go into hyperspace. I was tearing up. I was crying over like a ride, but like in my head, me and my friend just flew the Millennium Falcon.
Absolutely. I mean, it's out there. There's footage of me being in Galaxy's Edge when I see the Millennium Falcon for the first time in like all like up close and personal. The Great Nerd Chronic actually edited that footage and put a great Star Wars theme behind it. It's out there on Twitter. You can find it. That tells you exactly how much I was. I was just, my jaw dropped. I was in awe. I was in a galaxy far, far away. I was no longer on planet Earth, no longer in Los Angeles. I was in a galaxy far, far away on Batuu. And I agree completely. And I think the important thing to discuss here, or at least just to make a statement of, is it's not your opinion that is the problem. It's how you present it sometimes. You can have a negative opinion about Galactic Starcruiser. You can have an opinion that it was priced too much, that you can even think in your head that it's ridiculous. It was ridiculously priced and that Disney was out of touch for doing it. Whatever you want to think, that's fine. Just be respectful about it and know that some people loved it. And why do you want to shit on something somebody loved just because you didn't? That's not the way. Say like, you know what? Hopefully they learned some lessons from this, and I think it was a foolhardy venture. But to celebrate it is just, I don't understand celebrating it.
Here's what I equate it to, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Schmoedown stopped,
mm-hmm.
everyone was devastated.
Mm-hmm.
We were all like, holy fuck. Like, this thing that we've been watching, that you, like, guys like you and PJ and like loads of our friends worked on, it was over.
Yeah.
But you still maintain those friendships. You still have those memories, right?
Absolutely.
You still have something you can cherish.
Absolutely.
I understand the cost. Like, please do not think this is me sticking up for a corporation here.
Not at all.
If you know me for more than 2 minutes, you know that is not what I am. I am complete anti that.
Mm-hmm.
What I am saying is I have firsthand seen people like really upset about this. And those are the people that I'm sticking up for here.
Yeah.
Because they're hurting, right? And a lot of people can say, "Oh, great, they're upset over a ride. They're upset." If Star Wars went off the air tomorrow, they're pulling stuff. Guess what? They're pulling stuff off of Disney Plus. What if one day this is what I'm trying to get to because I'm trying to move us on here. If they decided to absolutely kamikaze the streaming service and say, you know what, Book of Boba Fett didn't perform as well, we're going to pull Book of Boba Fett off. Andor didn't perform as well, we're going to pull Andor off.
Yeah, absolutely could.
The fucking uproar that there would be.
Absolutely. And this is like that for some people. Absolutely. Completely 100% agree.
So just like say what you got to say. Like I'm never gonna like say to censor someone. Just think about how you say it.
The best way to put it forward is point blank, bluntly, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
That's it. That's gonna be our new. I think we should have a shirt. Don't be.
But if you're gonna be a dick, don't be surprised when people come back at you.
Right. There you go. Absolutely. Speaking of that, you mentioned it. That was our next bit of sad news. My last bit of sad news, so to speak. Willow is being removed from Disney Plus. Disney Plus is removing a bunch of different of shows, etc., and Hulu as well, as they are combining Disney Plus and Hulu into one format. And that's scary to me, and it should be scary to you. Like the initial news is, yes, Star Wars is safe. We have everything from Star Wars on. Everything that Bob Iger said was that they're concentrating more on their big IPs, and Star Wars is one of those. Marvel is one of those. So we probably won't lose anything from them. Not losing anything from Star Wars, as far as I can tell. But that's like kind of like I don't. I was going to do one thing, but I can't. I don't want to compare the two necessarily. But it's one of the things like you feel you're safe because your stuff hasn't been touched. But Willow has fans, and they're losing it forever. What happens
when they pull Scrubs off? I'm flying to LA tomorrow to throw hands with Iger directly.
What happens when they do come for Star Wars? Even if it's like a lesser, like Book of Boba Fett was not as well received. It's probably the least favorite. If you like pan if Paul told everybody else, that's something like that. Absolutely, we could see something that they could just pull it anytime.
When they pull nubs off, people gonna be real. Ken's gonna like burn Disney to the ground if they pull that.
And here's the thing too, and I'm going to lead this to there's always the argument out there. Some people are really gung ho about the argument about physical media, and I was never like. I got a wife and 3 kids. I lost all my physical media a long time ago. I kept Star Wars. I kept some things here, and I kept some of my more favorite ones, but because I didn't have the room. But more and more, you see the need for it now, specifically because the problem is these Star Wars shows we're discussing. We don't have them on physical media. We don't have any of the Mandalorian out there, and this is going to be a Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Andor. I mean. So if Disney puts them in the vault, like this is really the old Disney vault thing they used to have back in the day.
Remember that. Holy
they would
shit.
Release movies for a while, they'd pull them out, put them in the vault, and then re-release them later on, but they wouldn't be available while they were gone. This is that all over again. And what are we going to do? I mean, this is why I really hope at some point Disney and Lucasfilm come to realization that they could make money just by releasing them on Blu-ray. Release them on Blu-ray later on so we can have them. Yeah. I get they want to drive people to the Disney Plus service, but I can guarantee you, if you are buying a Mandalorian Season 1 Blu-ray, you're probably not canceling Disney Plus. You are probably sticking around for the next Star Wars show.
Yeah, because I want to watch the next season.
Now you can have a delay, have Mandalorian go on season, and then like at the end of the season, or even 6 months later, then put it out on Blu-ray or something like that. But having the physical media is important for that very reason. You don't want to lose this forever. I want to be able to sit down. Like 10 years from now, what if I want to sit down and do a fucking week-long marathon? I don't have access to Mandalorian anymore. Well, what do you do? What do you do? You don't know. Without going the Jack Sparrow way, and you're forcing people to do that when you do it that way. And we don't condone Jack Sparrow way necessarily, but I mean, if I would completely buy it. We can't openly condone it.
Hey, how do you think I've been watching Ted Lasso? This is my words. Don't come for PLD. I mean, it's Jason Sudeikis. And like Bill Lawrence. I'm the biggest Scrubs fan in the world. Like I've probably put Bill Lawrence's kids through college. The amount of useless Scrubs things that I've bought.
There's no, that's a good point. There's no Ted Lasso Blu-ray, I don't believe either. I don't think any physical media for Ted Lasso. That's the way we're going. We're going less and less physical media, and that's scary because all of a sudden, whether a show is in the public consciousness or not, or a movie or anything like that, is not up to the public anymore. It's up to the whims of a few people in charge of a studio. That's scary. That's scary.
Here's the thing. I was talking to Auden Diaz about this the other day. He was talking about the writer's strike and how like AI can't write a proper script and everything. And I posed the question to him, and we had a really good discussion about this. I think we killed media. Our generation with LimeWire. Now I know, like I'm bringing it back to Metallica. Was Lars Ulrich right to sue Napster? We gave him shit at the time, but I think he might have been onto something because, and I know I'm a Jared Leto hater for life. I go back and I watch the 30 Seconds to Mars documentary sometimes. What's it called? Artifact. Right. When Apple bought the music industry and they started iTunes, we allowed a technology company to dictate the price point of art. We allowed technology and art. We allowed the technology companies to dictate how we receive our art and how much that art is worth. We don't put the price on the actual artwork, on the be it music, be it TV, be it movies. It is now in the control of Apple and these big technology distribution companies. So I put it to like, did we fuck ourselves with this?
Potentially. I think potentially, because we're allowing it to happen. It's the new norm. That's the thing. We're not like, not enough people are fighting back about it, and the studios are able to do that. And the studios are also, I mean, speaking of the writer's strike, did you see what HBO Max did? Well, Max is now Max, but if you look at like, if you skim the, if you go to, like, for example, if you go to, what was it, the movie they talked about, Raging Bull on HBO on Max, instead of having Raging Bull? They have Raging Bull on HBO Max, but if you look at it, it says starring such and such and such, but instead of writer, director, and all those things, it has a vague title of creators. Peter Savage, Martin Scorsese, Martin, like, it's the producers, the writers, the directors, all in like one. Creators. We're basically calling movies now content creators. Like, that's breaking a lot of laws, I think, and hopefully they're going to get sued their ass off for it, because I know they can't label things that way, but like, they're just trying to do it, and if they get away with it without, that's like that. I mean, imagine that you go to a movie now and it's just a list of people involved. Like, there's no director anymore. We don't know who really directed it. Just this a list of creators. Like, that to me is reprehensible.
Well, we know if it's a Star Wars or a Marvel movie, it wasn't Scorsese.
That's true.
But sorry, I'm just trying to like add a bit of light here.
No, I get it. I like that. I appreciate that.
Dude, it's here I am on YouTube about to attack YouTubers. When you lot started talking about this stuff and calling it content, that was the final nail in the coffin. And this is me speaking. And I enjoy this stuff. I subscribe.
We are content creators.
We are content creators. It's like we're part of the problem, and this is the whole thing that I'm saying. Like, did we fuck this up for ourselves to the point beyond repair?
I don't know.
I think we have.
I don't know.
Trust me, I'm a completionist, so I would probably wait until Mandalorian's done before buying a Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, I get that.
But Disney, you want to make some cheddar cheese? Right. You got guys like me, Paul. I can guarantee you PJ Campbell would buy a Mandalorian Blu-ray. Absolutely. I would buy an Andor Blu-ray like yesterday.
Think about all the people we know. They would buy these physical media for sure. They'd probably buy
PJ Campbell's collection.
He would buy The Mandalorian season 1. He would wait and he'd buy the complete set when it was released later on. There's people who buy it in multiple ways. Fashion.
You would buy every different version of the Steelbook version that there is.
Yeah, that's what it is. So that's just my plea is that, like, I don't put it out if you're going to do this, if you're going to start fucking with us, because Disney Plus was always kind of meant as the no longer having a Disney Vault because everything's going to be out there, and you're going to start.
This is supposed to be the Disney Vault,
right? If you're going to start taking things off, please put them out there in physical media. I would actually consider buying Willow. I loved Willow quite a bit. I was hoping for season 2. I'm still hoping for that somehow because of John Kazan's comments that we'll get something somewhere down the line. But yeah, give it me on physical media so I can at least have it and watch it when I want to.
Kasdan, I see what he's doing.
Yeah.
I read between the lines with what he's saying. He's playing nice because he wants a season 2.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But I do not buy that bullshit he came out with.
I want a deep conspiracy theory and tinfoil hat on kind of thing.
Yeah, go for it.
He mentioned that it wasn't canceled. He mentioned something about how it was pulled off. But he said it's possible it'll come back. And he says stranger things have happened.
He's going to go Stranger Things?
Is he going to go Netflix? Is he going to go Netflix? Is that a veil thing?
That would be the biggest kick in the nuts.
I don't know if it's possible or not, and you know what? I'm probably full of shit. I just saw that. That'd be an interesting way to kind of like just
that would be it out there. John Kasdan, Brian, Stranger Things.
That'd be cool. I'd love it.
If Warwick Davis shows up in the next season of Stranger Things, you guys heard it here first.
There you go. Absolutely. So, all right, let's get into a few more. We always go longer on our news, and I think we are going to go. We have 2 more pieces of news, just some more happier news, I would say, or at least more back to smiles. Natalie Portman did an interview on GQ, and while it wasn't much of a statement, it was still intriguing to think about. Someone asked her on the internet whether Natalie Portman would ever return to Star Wars and to Padme, and she succinctly said, "I have no information on this. No one has ever asked me to return, but I'm open to it." So there's no news.
But then she went right on to say that Taika asked her to return.
Well, I do. We were talking about this off air. We watched the video together. I do think it's a difference between Taika Waititi maybe jokingly asking her or something like that, versus someone from the top of Lucasfilm. I mean, I don't know. You're not wrong, but I think that she meant beyond that. She hasn't been asked to return as Padme or whatever. Because return. Taika asked her if she wanted to be to Star Wars, not asking if she wanted to.
I don't buy that crap that Taika didn't know she was in one of the biggest franchises of all. Taika's a movie lover. Of course he knew. Though, if anyone says that he didn't know, they are full of shit.
I don't think you're wrong. I agree with you. I think he did know. He was just kind of playing the Taika part. But the most intriguing thing to me is, would we want to see Padme come back? And if so, how? And I'll answer this first and let you go. I would love to see Natalie Portman come back. The fact she's willing to come back and happy to come back is kind of giving the same feeling as Hayden and Ewan wanted to come back. It's time. Let them come back. Now, the question would be as to how would she come back? Obviously, we'd have to be like some kind of flashback or some kind of pre-episode 3 show. She can't just show up and I don't think you can't use somehow someone has returned too often. I mean, it was stretching enough for Palpatine to return that way just for some people. So I don't think you're ever going to get somehow Padme returned. There was somebody out there throwing out there potentially Natalie could be Sabe, who's in the Darth Vader comic book right now, potentially. But I think Keira Knightley might have something to say about that. But what could we do? And I'm going to pitch it to you.
Go ahead.
This is what I want to say. Obi-Wan season 2. Features Obi-Wan, features Cody. And then there's a whole flashback sequences, like it's 2 timelines. And we get an untold story of the Clone Wars with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme. An untold Clone Wars arc. That's like part of it. So Obi-Wan takes 2 timelines, the Clone Wars arc and whatever is going on in the present time between Obi-Wan and Cody. I like that idea. We get Padme back, at least for somewhere. It kind of fleshes her out even a little bit more. We get live-action Clone Wars. Live-action Clone Wars with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme, and Cody. That matter at that point. That's what I'd love to see.
That's what you're going with?
That's what I'm going with.
Let me set the stage for you, bud.
Oh, yeah,
Grab some tissues because this one's gonna be a tearjerker. I'm gonna appease the fans that I'm not really a fan of, the part of the fandom that I don't really necessarily align myself with. Vader gets a movie or a show.
Oh, okay.
He goes back to Naboo, and yes, I am stealing this right out of the comic. Goes back to Naboo, and he visits Padme's memorial, Padme's grave. I just need Natalie Portman for 2 seconds, one shot of just her standing the other side of the coffin to Vader to show that they will always be separated by death.
Ooh, ooh. Oh.
I don't want her holding him. I don't want her holding his hand. I don't want her near him. I want her to be standing the other side of the coffin to show that because of what he did, they will never be close again. And I want him to not be a force vision. I want him to see her,
right,
and she's not even looking at him.
Damn, cold. That would be cold. That'd be cool. I don't
just there, like her head hanging, so you could even get like a stunt double that looks like Natalie Portman.
Well, that kind of cheating though. That way, we were talking about Natalie Portman returning, not necessarily Padme returning. I mean, it's Natalie Portman and I'm a little bit both, but I would like to see that storyline. I absolutely would love to see that.
We want to add to the tragedy of Vader here, like.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right, final bit of news, then let's move on until we get to our best of John Williams. We had a great article where the Ahsoka cast were talking about some lightsaber training, but also, more importantly to me, where they stand at the beginning of the story. Let's talk about that. We have Rosario Dawson who states, you already know these characters from Clone Wars and Rebels, so with Ahsoka, you've seen the Mandalorian in the Book of Boba Fett. You know she's on the hunt for Grand Admiral Thrawn. Obviously, Sabine made a promise. There's someone who is top of the mind for us that we're looking for. The man of the hour is Thrawn, and it's kind of exciting to be here at Star Wars Celebration to see the back of his head on screen. Now, that is obviously discussing the other guy we're looking for, not just Thrawn, Ezra Bridger, which makes me excited. Any thoughts on that?
No. And I say this solely because I'm aware of what, and I know I'm kind of seeming like I'm just like brushing this under the rug. I promise I'm not. I'm very well aware of what we're gonna get, or what we're seemingly gonna get. This is the Rebels sequel show,
right?
We're gonna be getting Thrawn. We're most likely. We may just. I would love it. I would love because it would piss so many people off, and I love to sow the seeds of chaos. If it's just the hologram of Ezra, that's all we get.
That's all you get. Could be. It very well could be.
I know that's probably not going to happen, but if that, yeah, I'm excited. I love Rebels. I love all those characters. I love the cast that they've pulled for this show. It's fucking insane.
Yes, that is very true. Very true.
I'm ready for it now.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we did have, we had the Sabine herself, Natasha Lubordizzo. I always have to make sure I'm saying that right. Stated about a couple things about her performance as Sabine and where Sabine is. She stated she's been through a lot. She's still a stubborn cookie, but I think that you find her. Well, at the end of Rebels, she was a huge part of the liberation of Lothal, and many regard her as a hero, but she certainly does not feel that way about it. She's only thinking about the obligation she has towards her friend. So she's got that mission in her mind, not her status. She's got a huge journey to go on with Ahsoka, so we find her at the start of that. And then she mentioned talking about getting to see Rebels and watching Rebels to kind of prepare. She said, I watched it all with the intention of capturing the essence of this character and having almost this free storage bank of memories that they had already worked so hard to create. So it was awesome as an actor to have that. But then live action is so different. So I absorbed it all and then forgot it all at the same time, which I think is the right way to go. I think you can't, because you're not going to ever make a seamless transition from animation to live action. You're a different actor, you're a different voice, you're a different way of looking at things, and you're at a different time in their life. So you can't try that. it's important to know the motivations of the character and what led up to where she is today. But I think you have to make it your own, and that's the only way to make it successful. So I kind of like what she's saying here.
Here's what I tie it to. And we're going back into music because our next topic is going to be on music.
Yep.
When a band comes back and they play the same music that they would have played 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or however long it was since they went, I'll like it for the first couple of playthroughs, but then I'll just be like, oh, you're giving me the same thing that I listened to years ago.
Right.
Now you get a band like, for example, a band like Thrice who come back and they play what, and they even said, I remember reading interviews with them, they're like, we wanted to come back and play the music Thrice would have been playing if we'd have kept going for 10 years. I was like, holy shit. That is, yep, perfect. So for these actors to be like, hey, we're at a different point in this character's life, we got this stuff to pull from.
Right.
That's great. We've got all this source material we can pull from. But they're not those characters anymore. They're moved on. Ahsoka isn't Snips anymore. Right. You know, she's been through some shit. So obviously she's gonna be different. And it's not gonna be Ashley voicing her, but luckily we've had time to get through that. What I'm saying is, like, don't expect an entire carbon copy of the characters from Rebels that we got.
Right. Of course not. Absolutely not. They're a much different place now, and I'm glad for it. So I appreciate that. One last quote I want to say. There's a bunch of more quotes that's actually on Star Wars News Net if you want to look up the whole article. I don't want to waste too much time going over every single quote. But the last one I did think was a fun quote to talk about. Azario Dawson was talking about her training for her lightsaber battle training, and she talked about her trainer, Ming Q. She said, I was grateful for the team of people that we have and to work with someone.
Wait, who's training her?
Ming Q.
Name rings a bell. Q guy,
I was grateful for the team of people we have to have someone like Ming Q, QIU. And as a lot of fans will recognize Ming, who did a lot of the training and coordination for all of us, she was in the very first episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. She plays a Jedi Master who was protecting the younglings. And that's how we know it was fake, because in real life, if she had a lightsaber, she would have killed them all and all the younglings would have been safe. Because she is truly a badass. And to have that moment when she was looking at me like this, but she started nodding. And what was the line that she said? This one did not make my eyes hurt. That was the first compliment that I got, and it made me cry. She started martial arts when she was 9, and what is easy for her, it took a lot of effort on our part to make it look easy. And that felt good. That felt remarkable. That kind of discerning eye. And we're talking to Dave, and he was like, when I'm cutting it, I'm thinking it should look like this. Is it doing justification to what she did? I think that's really true for all the crew. Everyone really had their own space and worked beautifully with each other to make sure every single detail of this was as rich and real and powerful as it could possibly be. And I know that kind of dialogue is like music to your ears. The fact that she said we're going to martial arts at 9, and she really worked to make it look good.
I thought I recognized the name. Yeah, I know who Ming Q is. She worked a lot on like Matrix Resurrections.
Okay.
Yeah, she did a lot. She did a lot of stunt work on Shang-Chi. I think she was not Aquafina. Who plays the sister? Whoever plays the sister in Shang-Chi, I know she's stunt double for her. Yeah, she's really talented. I think I even follow her on Instagram. I see her pop up sometimes. Super talented. There was the whole thing of Rosario talking about learning how to fight ambidextrous. It's not that hard to do. You drill, you run the same drill, but just do it with the other side of your body. Once you get it down, it's just like once you have the beats, it's
right.
It's fine. But yeah, I think that's cool. And I'm stoked that Min Q's getting to work on it. So.
Absolutely. I guess she was the stunt double for Fennec Shan. Also during the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, so it makes sense. So good for her. All right, well, cool. That is the end of that segment. Our new segment. It is always a little longer because we always talk a lot. I always have our opinions we have to put forth,
especially because like we've got a topic that we're probably just going to breeze through. So
it could be because it's we have a lot of conversation we could have. But the Best of John Williams was a difficult choice to make. So let's start. I have my favorite 5. Actually, I'm still going to wing it a little bit. I'd label it down to like 6 or 7 or 8, but I'm going to have to go from there, and I'll just see what happens. But let me start with you. Let's go back and forth. I didn't rank mine per se. I have my number 1. I'm my all-time number 1. The rest after that are kind of like take it as it will. But what about you? Let's hear your first selection.
My number 5 is Across the Stars.
Okay, yeah, can't go wrong there. You really can't go wrong.
It's whoever thought we'd get a love theme in Star Wars. If you told me as a kid, I'd be like, look, love, romance in Star Wars? Yeah, no, I don't want that. But that sweeping music, especially like the scene in Attack of the Clones where it's the marriage scene and they're standing on what lake is that? Lake Como?
Right.
In Italy, and you get that like sweeping music that comes through and like and it starts to open and then it swells.
Right.
And you know that this story is not going to have a happy ending.
Can't.
But that in that moment, and every time they bring it back in those moments that Anakin and Padme are together, is just like, this is a really beautiful piece of music, and this is a really beautiful relationship, and it's all about to go to hell.
Right, absolutely. And John Williams really made that relationship. Some people had some issues with the relationship itself because of how it went down and whatever. But like John Williams does, like he does everything. He just makes it work. And let's keep the wall up. They were on Italy. They were on Naboo getting married. But I kid with you on that. But no, this is actually a fun thing to talk about because back when the prequels were released, John Williams actually released singles like they were a band or something like that.
I remember seeing Duel of the Fates on TRL.
Duel of the Fates was on TRL.
It was like right after I think it was after like a Blink-182 video. I remember seeing it and I was just like, wait, what the hell? A Star Wars on TRL? Okay.
Absolutely. Across the Stars was done the same way, and Battle of the Heroes was for episode 3. So all the 3 prequels, they had these kind of single release.
What's that guy's name that did TRL? Carson Daly?
Carson Daly, that's it.
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I agree. So this was like it was kind of a weird thing for me as well. I remember hearing that, but they actually had a single release and stuff. You go to the single, you don't have these anymore, but like the record stores had like single walls and stuff, and you could buy Across the Stars as a single. Yeah, it was a glorious. I mean, we did hint at romance during like the original trilogy with the Han and Leia stuff. I had a Han and Leia music cue, but really Across the Stars was just this epic, beautiful, sweeping, passionate kind of song, as only John Williams can do. So I had that on my my honorable mentions, so to speak, as well. So I definitely agree with you on that one. As to my selection, this is the one where I'm going to admit I cheated a little bit, and I'm hoping you'll forgive me. And I'm hoping that the
PLD fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I'm hoping the listeners were also, excuse me a little bit. This was arranged by someone else, but it uses John Williams music. For me, The Rise of Skywalker trailer 2, where it takes the John Williams cues and slows it down to this epic formation, is some of my favorites still. Years later, since the movie went out, I can watch that trailer and it's not. I don't care about it's not even the line. The music as it happens, as it slows down, and you have that da 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 da, and it's like this big epic finale. I get goosebumps thinking about it just now. It's still Williams. It's still Williams music. It's just arranged slightly differently for the trailer. You let me have it. You let me have it.
I'll let you have it, but next time I'm throwing some Samuel Kim mixes onto this list.
I could do a lot of Samuel Kim mixes for sure. He definitely covered this one as well. I put it in my it's in my rotation in my complete Star Wars rotation.
He mashed 2 of mine together.
Yeah.
He just throwing that in there and use that as one of my choices.
Well, hell, that's what I use the Samuel Kim version for my video. It's on the channel now. When I put together the animated Obi-Wan message thing, it is the 2 Rebels themes mashed together. So he's just wonderful at doing that. But yeah, it's still John Williams' themes. It's John Williams music, just cheated a little bit differently. So allow me that cheat, listeners. Hopefully you'll forgive me. But forgiveness be a Jedi. Forgive me. All right, what's your number 4 selection then?
the song that spoiled so many people of the movie. The song I want played at my funeral, Qui-Gon's funeral.
Natty Gunner's Noble End.
Natty Gunner's Noble End. Wasn't it called Qui-Gon's funeral at one point?
I think it might have been that was a working title for it. I know on the soundtrack itself,
it's Qui-Gon's Noble End.
I remember I was working at FYE at the time, and we were waiting for Phantom Menace to come out, and the Phantom Menace soundtrack came out a couple of days or a week before or something. That we all looked at it, we're like, "Oh my god, this is great! We got to listen to new Star Wars music. Should we? Should we not? Should we wait for the movie? Should we not?" We all like, "Okay, we'll listen to the track listing." We got to Qui-Gon's Noble End. We're like, "Oh, well, fuck."
Yeah.
But tell me about what that was one of your favorites.
Just like you have the music with it, because they did it in two parts, right? It's the High Council meeting and Qui-Gon's Noble End as one track,
right?
And I just remember listening to it, be like, okay, yeah, and then you just hear the like the choir starts coming in, like just over that like low horn note, and it's just like, and then you hear you see the scene play out in your head, and it's just like you see Mace Windu say, which one was it, the master or the apprentice? And as that music's playing, it slowly drifts over to Palpatine. And as a kid, I thought nothing of it,
right?
But now it like you see Qui-Gon's, again, musician, like I relate to things of how they made me feel at the time. Now, like you go back and watch it, you see Qui-Gon's body burning. You know what's going to happen, and then it goes over. The camera goes over, and it fixes on Palpatine, and you just think. And now, like Tales of the Jedi, further adding to it with Dooku mourning the loss of Qui-Gon. You're just like, you motherfucker!
Oh, so beautiful.
Like the power of that, and like no one likes to go to a funeral, but like just the weight that song adds to that moment, and then it pans over to the man who's responsible for that funeral.
The slow pulse, yeah, absolutely. Just so you know, you are right. It was the High Council meeting and quote Qui-Gon's funeral is the track you're talking about. Qui-Gon's Noble End was actually his battle and death when Maul defeats him. I just configured the title in my mind. That's all.
You know the next song that plays after the funeral?
Which one?
It's the celebration theme.
Yes.
Which is Palpatine's theme.
Not happy.
In minor.
In major. Yeah, it's the happy version of Palpatine's theme.
It's the major key version of Palpatine's theme.
I learned that a while ago, and that was one of my most favorite facts I've ever heard. And I went to, I was like, someone pointed out, said, slow that down. I went, okay, I slow it down. I went, wait.
Yeah, then switch it to minor key.
Right. Then I heard it, and I was like, oh my god, put that in minor. And then I like, holy shit, that's fucking fantastic.
That's my honorable mention, by the way. I should have mentioned that. That is my honorable mention, because that's genius.
That is in my honorable mentions as well, quite frankly. And so I'm glad you mentioned it. That's true genius level using of motifs there. Definitively phenomenal. So, all right. For myself, the next one I'll pick. Again, this is definitely more of a basic bitch treat myself. Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates is just a phenomenal piece of music. I cannot help it. Not only is it magical to me, I'm going to talk about a personal moment. Personally speaking, when I was younger, my oldest Alex, it would be a key. We'd play, like if it ever came on, no matter where it was, he drops what he's doing and runs and get his lightsaber because he knew it was duel time. No matter what, he could be outside. I just hear the music, running to get his lightsaber. He starts fighting with it. It had such a profound effect on all of us throughout the choir, the music. To this date, if you remember correctly, one of my criticisms of the Obi-Wan series was I didn't use enough Williams cues, which broke queued up for it. I love that.
That's the one they should have gone with.
And I get it. And I totally, I like the music, and I'm not saying that the composer, Natalie, did a bad job. I just wanted to use a little more of the Williams secret sauce. But that trailer came out, and they used Duel of the Fates for the trailer. And I remember it was all just like waiting for that trailer. All of a sudden it came out, boom, blah. And we all just went, we all gasped audibly when watching the trailer because it came out just from a piece of music that we've heard billions of times over the course of our lives at this point.
That, my friends, is what they call honey dicking.
Fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite tracks. It always will be. I'm going to use it again during the Battle of the Heroes segment as well. It just became an overall defining moment for the prequels for me.
My number 3.
Okay, fair.
Anakin. Mine's kind of it's a 1-2 punch because they go right into each other.
Okay.
Anakin's dark deeds and Anakin's betrayal.
Fuck you. My number 3. Anakin's dark deed, Anakin's betrayal.
There we go.
Go ahead, I'll let you talk about it first.
The looming and the you feel uneasy because when you're watching it, you don't know what he's about to do.
Right.
You know something's about to happen because he's looking out at Padme's apartment. And you know he's going to do something rash. He's going to do something stupid. But never in the wildest dreams would I have thought he would walk into Palpatine's office, kill the Grand Master of the Order, become a Sith Lord, and then go on what is the Star Wars equivalent of a school shooting. That is so. Anytime I hear that now, I'm just like, it makes me feel uncomfortable because it's like that's the song where everything comes crashing down. Like you even hear it a little bit in the Siege of Mandalore. When Ahsoka's trying to reach out to Anakin through the Force, you slowly start to hear it, and I'm like, oh god, that's happening at the same time she's fighting Maul.
Right.
And she's nowhere near him to save him.
Right.
It's just
that's so powerful.
How could someone who had such promise, how could it all go wrong? That wrong.
And John Williams' music completely encapsulates that. And we're cheating a little bit. We actually cheated a little bit. Anakin's dark deeds and Anakin's betrayal. So I want to say, fuck it, it's our show. We can do anything. I'm going to add you one better and also add the Padme's ruminations to the beginning of that. Because that's where it kind of starts. That's where Anakin and Padme overlook each other with
that low humming, right?
The low humming. And it's this kind of, there's this, one single haunting voice behind it, a little guitar action. There's a little random guitar at times, but then that's when it gets into the dark deeds, the betrayal, which is basically the Order 66 music. And oh my god, that whole sequence from that, I mean, that's a whole big chunk of the movie. I could listen to that soundtrack and I just get sad and I get wispy and the hairs of my arms start getting on edge. It's so powerful. It's so moving, and John Williams just knows what he's doing. He just knows what he's doing. It's an earworm that doesn't get out, and you can't help but just understand what we are losing in Anakin at that point, and what we're losing for Padme and for the rest of the galaxy at that point. And it's the reason why Order 66 works so well.
Did you ever see the video? It went around Instagram and TikTok quite a lot of the little girl who's crying because she's just watched Revenge of the Sith. She can't be any more than 6 or 7 years old. And she's crying because she's I didn't want the good guy to turn bad. And the dad's oh, you mean Anakin? She's yeah, I didn't want him to turn bad.
Right.
And she's crying because she's just seen Revenge of the Sith. And she's 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm John Williams putting these songs to that scene made it even darker because, like I said, it feels uncomfortable, thinking about what Anakin is going to do when this music hits.
Yeah,
and the fact that there was no stopping him. He was done at this point. No one could have. Obi-Wan couldn't have helped him. Ahsoka couldn't have helped him. Padme couldn't have helped him. No one could have helped him.
No one. It's so sad and so powerful, and oh my god. I'm almost surprised that I put that number one, my favorite. In some ways, honestly, it probably is my number one. To be completely honest with you, I go back and forth. I could put that as my number one. I do have another number one that's been my long old term one that it's always my standby. But yeah, I love it. I love it very much. Since that was both on number 3 to kind of talk about, why don't you go ahead with your number 2?
Battle of the Heroes.
Not to mention it for me, but I can't knock you for putting it up there.
Oh, badass.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and like, again, another song that I feel like, shout out to Kevin Smets. If you've seen the Smets cut, hashtag release the Smets cut. I know we can't, but still, when he used that in the final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan and Vader, I was like, yes, that's the final piece that it needed. That was the secret sauce. And again, that's what John Williams brings. He's the secret sauce. He's the Salt Bae. He just like sprinkles it on. We've got the steak, like we got this beautiful sirloin or ribeye or however you have your steak. He just gives that little bit of seasoning on top. It's just like, there you go. Now it's a masterpiece. Now it's a masterful dish that when you finish this, you're going to be sat there thinking, oh, I'm full, but I can't wait to have it again.
Right. Absolutely. It's such a moving, powerful thing. I love it so much.
And seeing the name of it, like Battle of the Heroes, is just like, oh, wait, are Anakin and Obi-Wan going to throw down in this movie?
Right.
Which then like you start to think about it like, oh yeah, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, boom, this is it. And then you think, oh wait, that's not a good thing.
Right, absolutely. It's going to end up in heartbreak for us, and it did, and it does.
It's the Battle of the Heroes. The heroes shouldn't be fighting each other.
I know, it's so sad. That poor little 7-year-old girl. That poor little 6-year-old, 7-year-old girl that's inside all of us. Broke a little bit.
I think I've definitely got the hair for a 6-7-year-old girl.
Fair enough. All right, my number 2 is one that, funnily enough, I texted Ken after I heard about this. Ken and I guess, for a little while at least, shared the same alarm clock on our cell phones. And I don't know. I heard him talk about it first, so I had a text him afterwards. This is my cell phone as well. Still is. The end of The Force Awakens, John Williams created a masterpiece called The Jedi Steps and the finales. And there's something about how that encapsulates Rey, the hope, the meeting of an absolute legend in Luke Skywalker, and how it's this soft swell, but the way it rises and it just starts washing over you like you're on the island itself, like you're feeling that ocean wave, the Force waving over you. It's just a masterful connection of Rey, hope, Luke Skywalker, and then we get into that end, that final Star Wars finale, of course, music, which is always phenomenal. I watch the credits just for the music alone all the time. But it was one of the most, The Force Awakens, specifically out of the prequel or the sequel trilogy, had some really great cues overall. Rey's theme was great. The March of Resistance was great. Skirts Over Excellence was great. Kylo's theme was great. Some really great stuff. Some of those were my honorable mentions as well. But it was just that finale that really kind of summed up everything and said, yeah, John Williams, Star Wars, he still got it.
Yeah. I'm noticing a pattern here. Neither of us have picked anything from the OT.
Yeah, that's true so far, huh?
And I feel like I put that down to, I feel like Williams was still fairly young. I don't think he'd done much before Star Wars, right? He couldn't have done much, if anything.
He did a few. Obviously, Jaws was around that same time. He did a couple of things previous to that. He was around. Let's see exactly.
Like nothing on this scale. I feel the OT was like, if we're bringing it back to Metallica to close this off, that was his Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, that's
original trilogy was his Master of Puppets.
Well, Fiddler on the Roof. He actually did. He actually Academy Award for Best Scoring Adaptation and Original Song Score. So he's been around for a little bit longer. He actually was credited as Johnny Williams for a while.
Johnny Boy
in the '60s, television and things like that. His first movie, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, in 1969 was his first Oscar nomination.
Wow, I remember that.
And then actually got, I'm sorry, for 1969, Daddy's Gone Hunting, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and The Relvers. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and The Relvers. He was nominated both for his score for those. So yeah,
you said The Railway Children.
The Relvers.
Oh, I thought you said The Railway Children. I was like, he did that.
Rivers. I'm sorry, The Rivers. This is me being old and can't see it. So
no, I never heard.
Yeah. So she was around for a little bit. Poseidon Adventure, of course, in '72. That's right. Long Goodbye, Robert Altman. So it wasn't that young, but I mean, still.
But he hadn't done anything to like this scale.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one you first remember, I think. Outside of Jaws. Jaws was probably the first one you remember.
Yeah, I mean, Jaws is iconic. But again, I feel like the OT was his Ride the Lightning. Prequels was Master of Puppets. And then the sequel came along and he did the Black Album. And everyone was like, oh my God, he's lost it. It's not great. But then you actually go and listen to it. And you're like, holy crap. The old man still got it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely there.
But to round it out, my number one had to be. And this is where I give my basic bitch. Duel of the Fates, baby. John Williams' greatest work. In my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, this is the greatest thing that this man has ever written, has ever composed. And it all comes down to Dave Filoni.
Yep.
And him because I already thought it was an amazing piece of music.
Right.
The trilled notes of the and then like it builds and it builds and it builds. And as the fight goes on, it kind of sways with the action.
Right.
When Obi-Wan joins back in, it builds up again.
Right.
When Qui-Gon's on his own, it dies back down. When it cuts to the like the throne room scene, it's not as loud, it's not as prevalent.
Right.
And then I heard Dave Filoni say how because that lightsaber duel was the duel for Anakin's soul.
Yeah.
Like if Qui-Gon had won that, he would have had the father figure he always needed.
Yep.
But he didn't. He ended up getting a master who, yes, it was his brother, but that's not what he needed. He was a young kid who never had a father figure growing up, and he needed a father figure.
Right.
And that's why when Filoni says that every time we hear that, it's a pivotal point of Anakin's life.
Right.
I was just like, wow. And then you go back to, again, go back and watch the throne room scene. The song's not as prevalent there. It's died down. It's subdued because at that point, it's not as important to what's going on over here. Yes, it's important. It's the battle for Naboo. But then you go over here and then it gets louder and it gets louder as it builds. And as Qui-Gon slowly starts to go to his death, it quiets down again because you know that this duel of the fates is lost.
Yes. Yeah, no, I remember watching. That's why I'm so loving the gallery. That's what he said that in the Star Wars gallery. That's what he said at that. And exactly agreed 100%. That's where I see the same thing. And it definitely added even more for me for Duel of the Fates as well.
Blew my mind.
Blew my mind perfectly. I will say then that I already had discussed Duel of the Fates for me, so I had really more to add to that at this point. But my number one is actually from the OT.
Okay, cool. At least one of us put something in there.
I almost put two. I gotta say, one of my honorable mentions I do want to mention now that I almost felt like I had a hard time putting on there because it is so basic. It is the Bohemian Rhapsody of Star Wars.
Jedi Rocks?
Yes. Is Binary Sunset. I mean, they use that all the time.
Yeah.
And every time it's my favorite bit of music overall over when they think about it, because every time they use that when the Force is used or anything, and you hear that in the background, you're like, that's Star Wars. That's Star Wars. That's what you hear. So I kind of wanted that, but my one, I think it's funny because I think the titles have changed here and there. I want to say this was originally titled something different, but on the Spotify Return of the Jedi soundtrack that I kind of perused as I was trying to make my decisions, they had the track as The Emperor. and was the Emperor's theme partially. But what it is the cue where Luke and Vader have their battle, and then Luke is getting lightninged by Palpatine, by Sidious, and pleading for help, and Vader does the whole back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then Return of the Jedi gets its name. Because that's what this movie is about, and that's what the story is about. Like a lot of people, I think some people go, "Oh, it's Return of the Jedi because it's Luke is bringing the Jedi Order back, and the Jedi are back from the dead." Yeah, no. This is the return of the Jedi. This is the return of the chosen one from the dark side of the Force. The return of Anakin Skywalker. That's what the song, that's what the title means. And John Williams understood that more than anyone else, because he has this beautiful swelling piece of music that's back and forth, which raises the tension even more. But when Anakin finally comes forth from the dark side, from the Darth Vader armor, makes his decision and goes after Palpatine to save his only son, to save his son Luke Skywalker from death. And he returns, the hero we always knew we had, the chosen one comes back. And what does John Williams do? He cues the most perfect version of the Force. Da, 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 da. And it's just like, again, goosebumps. It's the most perfect use of that music for me. It will always encapsulate exactly what Star Wars is to me: hope, redemption. You could fuck things up in the worst way possible, but you can still choose to make the right choice. Even if people don't forgive you, you still make that choice to do the right thing. And Anakin's Return is a beautiful. It sums up Star Wars for me. That music itself is just a beautiful piece of music from John Williams, and my favorite, and I think will always be my favorite, because I even as a little kid, before we got this on video cassette, we had VCR, I rented Return of the Jedi all the time from our local video store. And I remember I had to bring it back, like I was going to be late that day, and my mom was about to go out the door. And I said, wait, mom, I just want to watch this scene one more time. She's like, you've already watched it a million times. Like, I really just want to hear the music one more time. She said, all right, put it on. And we put on just that last bit. And then we rewound the tape and brought it back, so we didn't get it.
I was going to say, you make sure you rewind the tape, otherwise your mom would have got the fee.
Yeah, she didn't want that. And before we got that, and then we got, later on when I got a video, I think she eventually basically bought it. She's like, I'm not going to keep fucking renting this for this kid. I'm just going to buy it for him at this point. It's saving me money at this point. But yeah, no, that piece of music encapsulates Star Wars for me almost more than anything else. So that's why. Good on you, Mr. Williams, you maestro. So,
the GOAT. What can we say? The GOAT. Sorry, Jarby.
It's true.
Indisputable at this point.
Indisputable. So, well, that's where we're going to wrap things up today. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and hanging out with us, talking news and talking Johnny Williams and some of
Johnny Williams, as he was known in the 60s.
That's right, Johnny boy. So, Matty, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner. Why did I have to think about my Twitter handle for a second there? At Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. You can find me here every week for Holy Snokes, every other week for Class Action with this guy, Mr. PLD, and Mr. Richard Eric Jarvie. Speaking of Mr. Richard Eric Jarvie, brand new show coming to the channel very soon. Am I Declassified? We've got episode 1 in the books. Basically, every week leading up to the release of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Jarvie and myself will be going through the Mission Impossible franchise, kind of like Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film. I mean, we are calling this Two Mediocre White Europeans on Film.
That's fair.
And you can find my band Mourner, MOURNER, on all streaming services.
I admit I was a little jealous of you and Jarvie doing that, because that's a cool idea. That's cool.
Well, you're coming on an episode. You're coming on for MI3.
No, you're right. No, I appreciate it. I love the fact we're getting more on I love having you guys have your own thing on PLD Projects. Let's try to expand out, get you guys a platform as well. You can find me at Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. Like I said before, if this is your first time here, hit that like and subscribe. And if you like us and want to support the channel even more, patreon.com/PLD Projects. You can join certain members of the crew like Austin Goodell, Jeremiah Morris, Matty Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, and a bunch of others. We really appreciate what you do. You help keep the lights on. You help us just keep the overhead sinking us, so to speak. We really appreciate your support in every way possible. But if you can't, I understand that as well. No, not everybody can do Patreon. If you wanted to support by liking, by sharing, getting more people involved, we just love the community we're building. We love that you're here for us talking Star Wars. And again, you can find me here all the time. Like I said, like Matty said, every week, Holy Snokes, every other week, Class Action, the alternate week with the aforementioned two mediocre white dudes on film. PG and I going through the Indiana Jones franchise right now, leading up to Dial of Destiny, before we jump on to John Wick and then to Friday the 13th, which is our
Hold the phone. You doing Wick?
We might be. Yeah, possibly. It's a Patreon thing. Kelly let us off the hook. Kelly, when I had a Patreon perk,
gotta go, Kelly.
Patreon perk I've taken it away now because we had so much. Our Patreon perk was so we could pick a franchise that PG and I could go through, or a trilogy. I had to take it away only because we've already scheduled out with Friday the 13th. We already scheduled out through about 2024 so far. So, but one of the things she had originally picked was the Pitch Perfect trilogy. Had to push her back a few times through scheduling. Not through anything else. I was going to do it for her, but then she gave us the option of going, instead of doing Pitch Perfect, you could do John Wick. And I went, I'll take that. I'll take John Wick.
Make sure that my calendar is free.
And as always, also review my podcast on V. The Harrisons will be coming as well. That's neither here nor there. That's later on next week. I don't even know what we're talking about next week. We haven't made up our mind on our plans next week. We'll be back at least talking news and more. Of course, Ahsoka is coming up soon, and when the gallery comes out on the 28th, we'll be discussing that as well. But until next time,
folks, this month or next?
June 28th. June 28th.
Okay, wow.
That's what's coming out. So that week we'll do the episode talking about that, as well as, of course, all the news that is fit to. I was going to say fit to print, but we don't print, so fit to talk about. So yeah, that's all right. That's it.
You sound like some old-timey news journal.
I know, right? Well, that's me. I'm an old Jedi. All right, take care, guys. Until next time.
May the Force be with you. Always.